I invite Dr. Vimala St.Britto ma'am, Correspondent St.Britto's Academy, to deliver the introductory speech and share her inspiring vision for this program. Once again, a warm welcome to you all for being a part of this exciting journey with us.
So, good morning, parents. Students, what is your thought about education? What about studying abroad? How many of you wanted to study in abroad? Very good. Okay, so thank you, students. Why you want to study abroad?
The reason why I want to study abroad is to just know the information about how the curriculum is here and there abroad. There are many good things and many benefits over here, and see what are the benefits there and how they are teaching there.
I saw the educations there. There they will do in real life. They give the experience in abroad, and the experience you experience in the real life, and you feel comfortable with your friends.
In abroad, we'll get more facilities and opportunities for our education and facilities.
So, as the children expecting, definitely there is a difference in learning in abroad and as well as in India. India is focusing more on by-hearting system, which is happening till now, and real life application. So we used to say RLA. Real life application is little lagging in Indian education, especially in matriculation. Now everybody is now changing because that cannot be one point to reach. Again, India again focusing on getting marks, only marks, whether the children understand the concept or not. Just pushing them to take more marks. So there is a two kind of children are there. One kind of a children that they take it, they absorb, and they immediately they speak it out. Some children they take and they wanted to realize and they wanted to experience that. So the children taking it immediately, they are giving it back. They have a lesser amount of thinking and inspiring what they are learning. The children who takes more time, if you see the children taking more time to think, analyze things, they take little more time because they have to analyze, they have to understand, they have to make themselves that confident about that. Those kind of children will perform much, much better in the later stage. Because without understanding, without confirming themselves, they don't take it as it is. So they will have a multiple thought process on one aspect. So if you see any business people, they always have a multiple thought process because they don't go with one line. Because if something happens, how I can manage? So to become an entrepreneur, to become leaders, to become CEOs, so they need to have a multiple thought process. So how they can build the multiple thought process? The way they learn. So we used to tell that the habit makes a person more successful. So when we can make it a habit? When we can make it a habit? After 20s or after 30s or from the beginning? Which habit is more stronger? From the beginning. So you children have got the opportunity to experience from 6th standard onwards. So there is a little difficulty also you can face because you have to prepare yourself in a other way. But at the same time, that will give you the confidence and the strength on learning. Okay. So beyond that, I think Mr. Surendra will explain more about it. And this is what I wanted to make to understand, that why parallelly learning American system is also helpful for the longer run. Thank you, children. Thank you, parents.
I welcome you, sir. Now I hand over the session to Mr. Suren Babu.
Good morning, everyone. Let me first introduce myself, but before I get there, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Vimala ma'am for a wonderful introduction. As soon as I entered your campus, the first thing I saw was the ground, a playground. I feel a school without a playground is a crime. A school should have a playground. I also went to your website and looked up, just the background about the school. Almost the entire website, at least the main page, was talking about sports, sports, and sports. I almost cried. Okay. That is what a school should do. That is what a school should be, right? A school is not only a place for education. A school is a place where a child, learns life, right? And life is all about, teamwork. It's competition. There's ups and downs. There's winning and losing. There's disappointment. There's success. Everything put together is life, right? And that's what a school should focus on. A school should, teach its children how to be responsible, how to live life, and pretty much prepare them to live in the 21st century. Right? And they're saying the jobs that when you finish your college, 10 years from now, or 8 years from now, or 7 years from now, the jobs that you're going to get, or the jobs that are going to be available to you, are not in existence as of now. The jobs are all going to be invented. It's the AI generation, right? You guys are the AI generation. So when you graduate, when you finish college, the jobs that you're going to be in have not even been invented yet. So that is the kind of dynamic change that is happening in the world now. And you need to be in a school where you have a visionary leader like Dr. Vimala St.Britto ma'am to lead the way, because even she doesn't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Senthil sir doesn't know what's going to happen. But to prepare you for the future, you have to think out of the box. You have to be a visionary, and you have to prepare for an unknown future. We don't know what is coming, but we have to be prepared for it, right? So it takes a visionary to see that this kind of program is important, this kind of program is essential, this kind of program should be introduced to your students. So I thank the management of the school to making us a part of this community and allowing us to speak here. So first of all, thank you for that. Thank you, ma'am. My name is Suren Ramasubbu, and as I was introduced, I grew up in India, in southern India. I grew up in Coimbatore, Salem, Trichy, then Hyderabad, a little bit in Bombay. So I'm a mix of all kinds of different places. So I'm from everywhere and nowhere. Then after that, I did my undergraduate in electrical engineering in PSG Tech. Then I went to the US for my master's. I did an electrical engineering master's in Virginia Tech. And then I went into a job. I worked for a few years, then I quit and launched my own startup. And I did that because I went to this university called UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, which is one of the world's, I think it is the world's top business school for entrepreneurship, especially for entrepreneurship. And I say that because entrepreneurship is not just about starting a business, right? Entrepreneurship is running the business, scaling the business, maybe even exiting the business, nurturing a team, building a team over a period of time and getting it to a point where everyone is working together. Entrepreneurship is also, in a way, like life, right? So when I went to UCLA, I had no idea that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I went to do my MBA because I was not sure about what I wanted to do in life. I was already 33 years old, okay, at the time, and I was not sure what I wanted to do with my life. I went to UCLA and I met some weird people. I met people like, for example, I met Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook. I asked him why he started Facebook, and he gave me a reason that I cannot disclose here, but he started Facebook for a very strange reason. I met another person, his name is Elon Musk, whom you all should know at this point. He's very, very famous now, infamous also now. I met Elon Musk when he was not Elon Musk. Nobody knew who he was. So he came to our campus and he gave a speech. அந்த ஸ்பீச்சில் எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் தமிழ் கலந்து பேச சொல்லியிருக்கார். ஸோ ஐல் மிக்ஸ் இட் அப் அ லிட்டில் பிட். ஸோ இலான் மஸ்க் வந்து ஒரு ஸ்பீச் கொடுத்தார். அந்த ஸ்பீச்சில் I learned only during the speech because nobody knew who he was. வந்து ஒரு ஸ்பீச் கொடுக்குறார். He said, I started doing my PhD in physics, I dropped out and I launched a startup and we sold that startup. That startup was PayPal. ஸோ பேபால் எக்ஸிட் பண்ணிட்டேன். இப்போ வந்து நான் பேபால்லேருந்து ஐம் ட்ரைங் டு டூ சம் நியூ ஐடியாஸ், ஐம் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரிங் நியூ ஐடியாஸ்னு சொன்னார். என்ன ஐடியாஸ்ன்னு சொன்னால், he put some 3 slides up and showed. One idea was, I'm going to build an electric car that will go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. And it will be the most expensive car and everyone will want to own it. அப்படின்னு சொன்னார். The second idea he had was, so far all rockets that are sent to space are sent by governments. You know, the US government, NASA does it, Indian government does it, French government does it, Russia does it. But so far no individual has owned or a company has not sent a rocket to space. I want to privatize the rocket industry and I want to make space travel a reality by launching this company called SpaceX. This was the second idea he mentioned. The third idea he said was, I'm going to put a solar panel in every rooftop in America and electricity is going to be generated by the people and contributed to the society, not a central utility like Tamil Nadu Electricity Board or something like that, that generates electricity and distributes to the people. He did all 3. That day we thought, இந்த ஆள் கொஞ்சம் லூசு தான் அப்படின்னு நினச்சோம். I did not believe what he said. சரி, இந்த ஆள் ஏதோ கிறுக்கு மாதிரி ஏதோ பேசிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. He did all 3. The electric car company is Tesla. It is the fastest growing car company in the world. They manufacture more electric cars than any other manufacturer in the world. The only other competition being Chinese companies. It is the largest, highest valued market cap, in terms of market cap, car company in the world. It's much bigger than Ford, GM, Benz. You take any brand, Tesla is valued more than that. The rocket company he launched was SpaceX. SpaceX has sent the highest number of satellites into space. In fact, he has created this network of satellites that cover the entire Earth. So you can get internet connectivity in Africa, you can get it in the desert of, in the Thar Desert if you're there, anywhere in the world, you'll be able to get internet access through this network that he has created. And it was possible, and he's not done with SpaceX. He says the mission of SpaceX is to send man to Mars. ஸோ அது எப்போ நடக்கும்னு தெரியல, பட் உங்கள் லைஃப் டைமில் நடக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். மேபி நாட் இன் அவர் லைஃப் டைம், பட் hopefully you will see man land on Mars. Maybe one of you will actually land on Mars. Who knows? So he said the second idea was SpaceX. The third idea he mentioned became Solar City. Solar City was this company that made put solar panels in every rooftop in America. And now they don't even make solar panels, they make solar roof tiles. You can just put a roof tile on your house and that will generate electricity. So that became Solar City. He did all 3. He also created a company called Hyperloop. He did a lot of other things and now he's sitting next to Trump and dictating the law of the land. So don't ask me about that. Ana andal konja loose da. But I feel that to change the world, to make things like this happen, where the status quo is completely thrown out of the window and something new is brought in, you need some crazy people. And I met some crazy people. I met Mr. Senthil, Mr. Kumaresh at a recent conference. They are a little bit crazy. Today I'm here to not only talk about this program and ask students to enroll and introduce the program to the parents here. I'm actually here to sell a dream. As of now, and when ma'am asked how many of you want to study abroad, almost 75% of students raised their hands. I was shocked by that. Usually it's not very common to see that. That says something about the culture of the school and about the ambition of the students. But the dream I'm going to sell to you is studying abroad is very, very possible. It's very much accessible. It's not difficult at all. And I say this because there are 3,000 universities in the US alone, 3,000 universities, and they are looking for international students. Okay, we only hear about the Harvard, the Stanford, the MIT, and only the top 5-6 colleges we hear about. But there are 3,000 really, really good universities. And the higher education system in the US is very, very good. And I can attest to that. I've spent nearly 7-8 years in higher education institutes in the US. And I may even go back to do a PhD. So I can tell from my own experience that the education system in the US, and as ma'am was rightly pointing out, education system in the US is very different from the Indian system. And this goes right from the school age itself. The system itself is tuned to help students, and I will talk about that in a little bit. So let me introduce you to the Academica International Studies Dual Diploma Program. And as the name says, it's a dual diploma. And for the parents here who are aware of dual degree in college, this is sort of bringing that idea to the school level and saying, if the student can do one curriculum, why not two at the same time? And it doesn't sound as outlandish as it literally sounds, but I'll explain why in a little bit. Before we get there, I'll talk about Academica. I think in the introduction they mentioned Academica is a network of schools. We are actually an organization that runs 200 schools across the US. And these are brick and mortar schools, just like this school here. There are 200 schools across the US. Now these schools are, in US there are government run schools which are called public schools, and then there are privately run schools which are private schools, and there's something in the middle called charter schools. Charter schools are private schools, but they are run by a private party, but funded by the government. So you can think of it something like government aided schools. Why would government aid a private school, right? So the government wants to create competition for public schools, for government schools. So by creating competition for government schools, they believe that the quality of education will go up, the quality of instruction in the public schools will go up, and in some places, like in inner cities and in poor neighborhoods, the government schools are not run well, even in the US. There is a lot of poverty, there is a lot of gang violence and things like that. For example, in a place called Little Havana near Miami, the public school or the government school there is really, really bad. The children have no option to go to school because the teachers don't come, there is no education there. So Academica went in and created this school called SLAM, Sports Leadership and Management Academy. And SLAM Academy is such a haven in the middle of Little Havana, and all the children in that area and even students from outside have enrolled in that school, and they are able to benefit from a very high quality education without paying any fees because the government sponsors it, the government funds it. So Academica's mission is not just to operate schools and get funding from the government, but to operate schools in places where it will make a difference, right? So Academica is a very mission-driven organization, and from the beginning, Academica has been at this, and we've been in existence for over 35 years now. Again, our founder is also a little bit of a crazy guy who had this crazy idea, and he went and implemented it. And we have over 2 lakh students across the US who are studying in Academica schools. So about 15 years ago, Academica started offering Academica International Studies Dual Diploma Program. Academica started offering this Academica International Studies outside the US. And it started off as a very small thing. The Spanish consulate invited Academica to offer something like a dual diploma program in Spain. So we started with maybe 5 students in one school in Spain. And today there are 10,000 students in the country of Spain alone who are going through this program. So the mission of Academica International Studies is to make high quality international education accessible to all students, right? When I was growing up, there were very few international schools, or I hadn't heard of any international schools at the time, and parents here would know. There were CBSE schools, matriculation schools, and government schools, that's it. And today, every city and every town, little town has international schools, and they offer Cambridge, IB, and all these things, right? But they're kind of expensive, they're not accessible to all students and things like that. So Academica, by offering the dual diploma program, makes international education accessible to all students just like you. Regardless of which curriculum you're in, regardless of which school you are in, it is possible to get an international education. So Academica Virtual Education was born, and over the last 15 years, Academica has learned how to run a virtual program around the world. Now, what started with 5 students in Spain became 10,000 students in Spain alone. But across 32 countries, today we have 50,000 students around the world who are benefiting from this program. So the reason, as you must have heard when they read my bio, I'm a tech founder. I'm not an educator. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a principal. I don't have much of a background in education itself. But I got into this because of personal interest. I lived in the US for 18 years. And due to family reasons, in our culture, we take care of our parents. So I came back to take care of my parents and parents-in-law. So when I came back, my children were already about your age. My daughter was already in ninth standard. My son was already in 5th standard. And so when I came back, I was looking for a school that will offer the best of both. I wanted them to benefit from the strength of the CBSE curriculum and also benefit from, have a foot in the door in an American system of education so that eventually if they wanted to go back, it will help them go there. But I could not find any option like that. There was no such dual diploma kind of program in existence at the time. So after searching far and wide, the only school in Chennai that was offering an American curriculum at the time was the American International School in Taramani. So my children went there, and it's a good school and all. It has great infrastructure, but it's kind of a bubble. Once you go there, 40% of the population is Korean, 20% is French, the rest 20% are expats from other countries, and only 10% are Indian. So even though the school is in Chennai and it's run in Chennai, it's actually, it doesn't give you the Indian school experience at all. So my children did not benefit from this at all. So when I got to know about Academica, and my company, the company that I had founded was kind of acquired by Academica, I came to know about the dual diploma program, and I kept asking them, why are you not offering this in India? If you're offering this in 30 other countries, you should be offering it in India. And about the same time, Academica won this presidential award. At the time, it was Joe Biden, so they got the award from the president. And the US consulate, just like the Spanish consulate in Spain invited them, the US consulate in India invited Academica to come and talk to schools here and see if we can offer the dual diploma program. And this was 2 years ago. So my colleagues came from the US. We went around almost 10 different cities, met with school leaders, and we started pilot programs. And for the past 2 years, we've been doing pilot programs across 10 schools, a couple of Delhi public school campuses, Podar International. There are a few schools that are doing a pilot program. And about 40 students are going through the program. I have also been looking at this program from the sidelines for the past 2 years, and I understand how it works, and I understand how it benefits the students. Right? So this year is when we started taking it to a larger audience, going and meeting school leaders and school administrators to see if there is interest. And it turns out that there are some visionary leaders in India who are willing to dive into this crazy idea and make it happen. So I call the dual diploma program one of the biggest innovations to happen in K through 12 education in the world. And the reason I say that is because the dual diploma program allows a student to graduate with 2 different diplomas, as we call it in the US. Not only that, but they do it by validating what you're studying in your regular school. So it's very different from any other program that is available, that is in existence today. And I'll explain this, maybe the parents will understand in a little bit. The dual diploma has 3 major objectives. The first major objective is language immersion. And why is language immersion important? By language, I mean only the English language. And you guys students here are already in English medium school, and you're learning English in the CBSE system, and it's a very rigorous thing. You're already doing it. But why do I keep emphasizing on the English language? So the dual diploma program requires you to do, places a lot of emphasis on the English language. But English is English. I mean, no matter where you learn, British English, Indian English, US English, it's just a language, right? It's not about the language itself. It's about what is called critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that is taught with intent in the American system of education. And this is taught from kindergarten through college in the US. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is a concept, right? Critical thinking is, as the phrase literally means, it helps you or forces you or makes you think about everything critically, right? If somebody tells you something, you don't have to take it at face value. You read a book, you don't have to take it at face value. You watch a movie, you don't have to take it at face value. You have to think, right? So critical thinking is something that is taught with intent in the US, and they teach it to make sure that you have independent thought, and you have independent agency, and you have something that comes from your mind. Something like that, right? That is what teaches you to think critically. And I believe, and this is, maybe I'm biased, but I believe that some of the biggest innovations in the last 2 or 3 decades, or maybe last few decades, coming from the US is no accident. No, it's not just coincidence. I believe that it is because critical thinking is taught from a very young age. And I learned this during a work meeting. I was working as a middle manager in Hewlett Packard at the time, and we were in a design review meeting, and it was a very controversial topic, and I was trying to convince, there were like 50 people on the call, and I'm trying to convince them, and they're not getting convinced. One of my junior most engineers who was reporting to me, or she was reporting to my subordinate, she had just joined, she had been in my team for 6 months. She said, Suren, can I interrupt and can I explain this for 2 minutes? I said, yeah, please feel free, Susan. So Susan took the floor and she spoke only for 5 minutes. Everyone was convinced because the way she said it was very different from the way I said it. I was speaking in a very logical, straightforward way. And she kind of, if I can use movies as an analogy, she kind of introduced the solution and then went back to the reasoning and sort of in a flashback mode. And the way she explained it was so beautiful that everyone agreed immediately. So after the call, I pulled her aside and said, you're an engineer just like me. She's also an electrical engineer. She had a PhD in electrical engineering. I asked her, who taught you to speak like this? And she said, we are taught to speak like this from a very young age. From our childhood, from my school to my college to my PhD, all the way through, I have been taught to speak like this, to think like this. And I asked her, what is it that they teach? And she said, critical thinking. They teach us critical thinking from childhood. I was shocked. I had never heard the phrase critical thinking before that, so it was completely new to me. But after watching the dual diploma program being run the last 2 years, I kind of understand what it is. It's one of those things as an adult, I think parents here can relate at some point. You feel, maybe I should have learned swimming when I was young. Maybe I should have learned driving when I was young. There are some, maybe I should have learned to play the violin when I was young, because after a certain age, it's difficult to learn some skills. I wish I was taught critical thinking at a young age, because at the age of 33, I would not have been looking to find my calling, what is it I want to do and things like that. If I had taught to think critically from a very young age. So the language immersion in this dual diploma program focuses on critical thinking, right? They make you not only learn the English language, but also use it and explain or articulate your thoughts very clearly. And you'll be able to do that only if you're able to critically analyze something. So there's a certain amount of disrespect for authority in the US. And today it's reflected in a big way because Trump is now president. But there is somewhat of a healthy disrespect for authority because people think for themselves, right? Yes, there are laws, yes, there are rules, but they're constantly being questioned and they're constantly being overthrown because people always think critically. And that is the focus of the dual diploma program and the preparatory program, where critical thinking is the basis of the entire curriculum. The second big immersion or objective of this program is technology immersion. Of course, it's a completely virtual program. So if you're doing something virtually online over a long period, over a 4-year period, and it's a dual diploma kind of program, you have to be very comfortable with technology. You'll have to be very comfortable with using technology for the purpose of learning. So digital learning becomes second nature to you students. And you are the AI generation, like I said, and we have an AI expert sitting here, so I will not talk about AI much. But so you're the AI generation and you are very comfortable with technology by default, but this is an aspect of technology that you have to learn. The future of learning is going to be, for the most part, virtual, so you better get comfortable with it at a young age. The third emphasis in this program is what we call personal immersion. By personal immersion, it's basically what I call work-life balance. You have to be able to balance your workload. Your CBSE itself is a hard enough curriculum. If you're adding an American international education to that, then that's additional workload. Then maybe you play sports, maybe you participate in debate, and maybe you do a Model United Nations or something like that. So you have extracurricular activities. So how do you balance all of this and still live a good life and still be happy, right? Now that itself is a learning by itself. By doing something that is above and beyond, by managing all this workload and still having free time, still having time to think, that itself teaches you time management. It teaches you something really, really important in life. So why do I call the dual diploma program the biggest innovation to happen in K-12 education? It's because a student can earn 2 diplomas at the same time. And diploma in India is a little bit confusing because it's considered a post-secondary thing in engineering particularly. But in the US, completing 12th standard grants you what they call a diploma. Just like your CBSE certificate, you get a high school diploma. Now, the reason we call it the dual diploma is because a student can finish CBSE 12th and at the same time earn an American high school diploma simultaneously. And that is the beauty of this program, where you can do this without breaking a sweat, right? ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்படாம பண்ண முடியும். இது வந்து ரெண்டு கரிக்குலம் பண்றதுங்கிறது சாதாரண விஷயம் இல்லை. எப்படி அதை அச்சீவ் பண்ண முடியும்னா அதில் ஒரு பியூட்டி இருக்கு. That's why it is I call this the most innovative thing to happen to the Indian education system. Now, this is a sample of the diploma that you will earn if you go through the dual diploma program and finish it. When you finish your 12th year, you will also get the US or international diploma. This is the exact same diploma that a student who is going to high school in the US will get when they finish their 12th standard. It's the exact same certificate. And you can see in the bottom that there's a symbol named Cognia. And Cognia is the world's largest accrediting agency. And they programs accredited by Cognia are recognized by universities around the world. US universities recognize it, Canadian, European, Australian, even the Association of Indian Universities recognizes Cognia diplomas. So this diploma will help you apply to study abroad to any country. As I mentioned, the education system in the US is very different from the Indian system, right? The biggest thing that I learned watching students go through the program over the last 2 years is how much they enjoy it. And ma'am, I don't know how she knew this before I talked about this, but she kind of knew this. She said the American system of education makes learning enjoyable. And I'm an example of that. I've spent a lot of time in American higher education. My children went through the American system of education, so I can tell you they actually enjoy learning. The reason I say that is, and I can see this happen with the dual diploma students who are in the pilot program also, they enjoy it because there is actually very little emphasis on exams. So if I tell all of you students, you can go through this entire year and not have a single exam, will you be happy? 0 exams, and it'll make you very happy, right? So the American system is, I wouldn't say 0 exams. There are assessments, there are quizzes, there are some exams. But usually, in any course that you take, exams will count for maybe 15% of the grade. Rest 85% will be comprised of various different things. You may get 10% for just attendance, 10% for participating in class. You know, some children raised their hands and asked or answered questions. That is participation. You get 10% for participation. You get your assignment or an exam will be to make a video about, let's say, world history or the forms of government or some local issue in where you're living, right? You get to, that becomes your assignment. So it's not a test, it is an assessment, but it is not an exam as we understand it, right? So Indian students tend to enjoy this process, and they love the system of education where you can, number one, experiment with various media and do the exams the way you want. Number two, the teachers are very flexible. The system itself is very flexible. So if you're overloaded, you have an exam and you're not able to keep up with this, the teacher in the US will work with you and make sure that you're able to finish the curriculum, right? So if you're backed up, you didn't submit an assignment, they will extend the deadline. They may extend the deadline a second time. They may even allow you to take a test again. They may allow you to take an exam again. I recently met a professor there, and I was asking her about the system of education where there is, in India, if you fail an exam, you're a failure. Right? You get a 60% in your 12th, you're doomed, right? That's what parents tell you. But you get low scores, then there is no hope for you, and people are disappointed, and students feel disappointed, and there's even bad things that they do, take their own lives and things like that, right? The huge negative consequences. But the whole system is designed to give second chances. So the American system of education does not consider a grade as a one-time thing. They look at it as somewhere on the curve. You're on the curve and you're in the process of learning. As ma'am said, some children absorb things very easily. Some children are very good exam takers. They will just do well in the exam. And there are some children who will absorb things slowly, right? But when they actually learn it, they would have learned it much better than, maybe much better than some of the students who picked it up very quickly. So the system is designed around giving second chances. So the teacher works with the student and makes sure that they are successful. The focus is on knowledge and ability rather than on exam taking. And that is why the program becomes very enjoyable for Indian students. Now, to complete an American high school education, and this is high school in the US runs from 9th to 12th. To complete an American high school education, typically a student has to complete 24 credits or 24 courses. நம்ம ஊரில் சப்ஜெக்ட்னு சொல்கிறோம் 24 சப்ஜெக்ட் படிக்கணும் 9th-லேருந்து 12th-குள்ள 24 சப்ஜெக்ட்ஸ் படிக்கணும். பட் டியூவல் டிப்ளமா ப்ரோக்ராமோட பியூட்டி என்னென்னா they don't have to do all 24 with, they don't have to repeat a lot of these courses. And why I say repeat is because in the 24 courses la breakup pathina, there are 4 courses in mathematics, 4 courses in science, 4 courses in a second language. So all these Academica will take from your curriculum. You are in CBSE already, you are studying mathematics, you are studying science. So we will take 18 subjects from your mark sheets, from your CBSE mark sheets. And you only have to do 6 courses or 6 subjects with us in order to earn a second international diploma. So what are those 6 subjects? So the subjects you see on the left hand side, those are the mandatory subjects. And you can see that there are 5 courses in English. You don't have to do all 5. Every student will have to do at least 2 levels of English. And this is the US English that I mentioned with the emphasis on critical thinking and all. So depending on what your English level is today, you will be placed in the appropriate level of the English class. And you will do, let's say, English 2 and English 3 or English 3 and English 4. Another mandatory course is US history. And why is US history important? US history, I feel, is important because it places things in context. In today's day and age, US is, for good or bad reason, it's one of the most powerful countries in the world. And they're throwing their weight around and they're doing all kinds of crazy things, right? And sometimes it doesn't make sense from the outside. You know, what is this country doing? What are they thinking? You know, who are these people? Why are you doing all these crazy things? To understand US history, I feel, in today's day and age, is to understand the future, because they have an outsized influence on everyone's future, your future and all of our collective futures, because they're the largest nuclear country in the world. If they press one red button, it can destroy cities, it can destroy an entire state, it can destroy countries, right? So I feel it is important to understand the cultural context of that country. Another mandatory course is US government. Other than the 4 mandatory courses, the courses on the right you see are all electives. And you can see some of the electives are very practical, vocational kind of electives. There's criminology, there's psychology, engineering and technology. It kind of gives you an insight into all these different careers and helps you understand, whether it will be a good fit for you or not. In fact, one of the electives is SAT, ACT test preparation. So if you want to study abroad, you don't have to go to an outside training center to study. You can you can prepare for that test as part of this curriculum itself. Now, other than these electives listed here, there are also 30 college credit courses that will be available to you. So a student can complete almost 1 year of college before their 12th. And if you want to study in the US, you will save 1 year. You can go to US and study and finish your undergraduate education within 3 years instead of 4 years. So you will transfer as a second year student into the US, right? All of these are benefits. Now, and parents here might have a question. My child is already in CBSE and they probably go for JEE, NEET and Indian undergraduate education. We have no plans of sending them abroad. Yes, even for those students, I feel that this program will be of huge benefit. One reason is that our students, our children are anyway going to end up going abroad, whether to the US or to other countries in their lifetime, for sure. That is the way the world is going. It has become a flat world now. Even if they don't go abroad, they'll end up working for an MNC. Even if they don't work for an MNC or not, they will end up working with people from various different cultures around the world. So I feel it is very important for students to get exposed to all these different cultures, different forms of education, different types of people, and the way they speak and all that. So the dual diploma program can be done over a 4-year period, and that is the ideal sequence that we recommend. And I think a lot of students here are in 5, 6, 7, I imagine, or maybe 8th also. So this is the ideal time to enter into this program. We also have a middle school preparatory program where you can enter and prepare yourself to enter the dual diploma program eventually. So ideally, you would want to do this over a 4-year period. And if you do the college preparatory part also, then you can transfer directly into a US university. I know you're all too young to think about college at this point, but in a way, it is important for you to get started thinking about it at this point. And parents here, maybe you can do your due diligence and understand this a bit more. So how do students do this program? It's a fully virtual program. It's fully online. The students will be given access to the content online. They would log in in their free time. They'll be working during evenings or weekends or whenever they're free. In fact, the Academica Dual Diploma calendar runs from April to November, unlike the Indian system where our academic calendar ends in March. So in a way, we are lucky because Indian students can start in April and finish the first semester, which runs from April to June. They usually finish it during the summer itself. Even in 1 month or 1.5 months, they're done with the first semester. The second semester runs from July or end of July to November, and that overlaps with your school year, but it's still manageable because we're only doing like 6 courses over a 4-year period. All activities are done online. All assignments, content, reading, creating, everything is done online. In fact, one of the specialties of this program is that the students have to interact with an American teacher. American teacher will be interacting with the students on a weekly basis. Every week, there will be a mandatory live session where the student interacts with the US teacher. These are well-qualified, certified, credentialed teachers. In the US, to become a teacher, you have to be credentialed by the Department of Education. And all the teachers in this program are credentialed and authorized to teach K-12 classes. And these teachers, because they've been doing virtual education for the last 15 years, they know how to handle students. They know how to handle students who are advanced in the program, who are falling behind in the program, who are sort of average, performing at the average level. They know how to deal with students at various levels, and they'll help you be successful in this program. And I feel that one of the biggest benefits is having this relationship with the teacher in the US. Over the period of time, you will establish a one-on-one relationship with the teacher, and eventually, if you want to study abroad, the teacher will give you a letter of recommendation. US universities look at admissions as a holistic thing. They don't just look at your mark sheets or your grades and things like that. They look at, they do a holistic or comprehensive review. And one of the items in the review is a letter of recommendation. A well-written letter of recommendation from an American teacher goes a long way in securing admission into the top colleges. I'm sure this half of the room is asking this question, what is the workload? My child is already busy with a lot of things. They're studying a lot, then they have sports or they have tuitions and extracurriculars. How can they balance 2 curriculums at the same time? From our experience, we know that this program requires only about 3 to 5 hours of work per week, which is less than an hour per day. And looking at the pilot program so far, we feel that Indian students are very, very much able to handle this program and the workload. It's very important for all of us to be on the same page. The parent, the local school teacher or a program director, and the US teacher, they will all be sort of in a triangle, and they will make sure that the student doesn't fall out of the system, right? So it's because it's a virtual program, it's very easy to lose track of where things are, and suddenly the student has a lot of backlog to catch up. So this constant communication that happens between the parent, the local teacher, and the US teacher, that makes sure that the student doesn't fall out of the system. There are regular progress reports that are shared, and so the school knows how the student is performing at all times. So the dual diploma program allows the student to immerse themselves in the American education system and understand it in a very deep level. And I believe that this will help the students, whether they plan to study abroad or not, to build a good worldview that they can take for the rest of their lives. Some students may want to pursue undergraduate in India and then go for their masters in the US. Some students may do their masters or their entire college in India, and then maybe they'll end up going abroad for work or for their careers. So I believe that this program prepares them regardless of where they end up going. The US grading system is very different from the Indian grading system. Academica will issue a mark sheet that takes the Indian, 18 courses are taken from your Indian mark sheets, and these are normalized to the American system, and letter grades are given to the students. So the student has a consolidated mark sheet that they can submit to universities. I know it's all too early for you. We'll talk about it in future. These are the biggest benefits of the dual diploma program. And for a visionary school like this, the program is sort of very easy to adopt at any point, because there is no additional infrastructure required. All we need is a computer and an internet connection, and any student at any level of their academics, whether it's a top student or a average student or someone who's struggling, anyone will be able to cope up and be able to complete this program. And that is, I feel, is a great leveler. This brings international education. It makes it accessible to all students across the board. Other than the curriculum itself, the dual diploma program also has clubs and extracurricular activities. And this is, remember, this is a community of 50,000 students around the world. There are students from Colombia, there are students from Italy, from France, from various different countries. And this is your chance to connect with students from various countries and work with them on projects, on extracurriculars, on debate, and other activities. We also have what we call edutainment, where we bring prominent personalities, accomplished people to come and talk to the students, and this happens on almost a bi-weekly basis. And I've seen people like Arnold Schwarzenegger come and talk to the students, and Tony Robbins and some Will Smith and famous people come and address the students on a regular basis. And it's a great opportunity for students to hear from such personalities. Besides that, there's also what we call the esports league. I'm not sure if there are a lot of video gamers here, but if you play video games in the US, video games are considered a sport, which may be a shock to some of the parents here. It's actually considered a sport. So you can actually participate in a sports league where everyone's playing video games. They're making it very formal. There are scholarships available to esports players too. So the world is going in a direction that I don't understand, but you guys are the AI generation, so I'll leave it up to you. So in terms of process, the dual diploma program has an admissions test, and some of you are maybe too young for it, but if you're in 7th or 8th, you can apply to enter the program now. You can, there is a small admissions test, and it's a very easy English-based test. And based on the test, your admission and your scholarships will be determined. The program itself starts in April, so it's coming up very soon. The deadline for application is actually this Friday. So we have a very short deadline, and depending on how many the students that enroll, will be taking it forward starting in April. The admissions test will be in March, and from April the first semester itself will start. This is a picture of one of our graduation ceremonies in the country of France. I think there are about 8,000 students in France, and this is the commencement ceremony in France. It is my hope and wish that we have a commencement ceremony just like this in India a few years from now. And I wish to see a lot of students here, or all the students here, be a part of that commencement ceremony a few years from now. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish a lot of students here take up this option. Thank you, ma'am, for allowing us to present it here.